Not buying coffee for everyone today? Dana's voice pierced my ears like a poisoned needle. I looked up, giving a cold smile. No, and I don't owe anyone anything. The office went silent immediately, all eyes falling on us. Little did she know, from this moment on, the power and rules she had set would be completely exposed. Dana bit her lip, seemingly restraining herself from exploding. Tight family situation. You've been able to buy coffee for 2 years, every Monday, without ever complaining. Now suddenly you say no. What does that mean? You don't care about the team. Her tone was full of accusation and disapproval, as if I owed her and the entire department a coffee debt. I put my hand down and responded calmly, I bought coffee in the past voluntarily. I never promised anyone this would become a long-term obligation. I noticed her hand, holding the coffee, trembling slightly, as if she was trying to control her emotions. Colleagues were secretly watching, some twitched at the corners of their mouths, some looked down, avoiding eye contact. Dana fell silent, letting out a cold snort, and placed the coffee on her own desk, sitting down hard, like a rejected cat. Her actions were a declaration. From now on, she would show her displeasure through actions. Indeed, on Monday mornings, whenever someone passed by her desk, she would cough exaggeratedly or tidy her desk in little gestures, silently protesting my betrayal. I organized my desk, pulled out my laptop, and started working, trying not to look at her antics. As I focused on my report, the office atmosphere subtly shifted. Colleagues who normally greeted warmly avoided my gaze, seemingly afraid I might snap at any moment. Even Jake, usually the office jokester, just nodded lightly, his face tinged with awkwardness. On Tuesday morning, I found a glass jar on my desk filled with $2 coins, with a note, "For coffee, everyone contribute a little." I paused, frowning. Dana stood nearby, looking at me with a meaningful gaze. I bent down and picked up the note. "Did you put this here?" Dana nodded, a mocking smile on her lips. "Just a reminder, you can help cover coffee for everyone." I looked at her self-righteous expression, a chill running through me. This reminder masked indifference and attack toward my longtime contributions. I pushed the jar aside and said quietly, $2 isn't enough for 7 people's coffee. You do the math yourself. Dana didn't leave. She stepped closer, her voice low but sharp. Obviously, your financial difficulties shouldn't affect everyone's coffee. We're just making things easier for you. You should take care of the team. The office started noticing our confrontation, the air thick with tension. Dana's gestures grew more deliberate. She began sticking each person's order onto the coffee jar, labeling them with colorful tags, as if signaling I must obey some rule she had defined. I returned to my chair, hands crossed on the desk, fully aware, this wasn't just about coffee. It was a game of power and control, and she was clearly trying to corner me. On Wednesday morning, I brought my own coffee in a thermos. Dana's face fluctuated between pale and red, pointing at my cup and yelling, "Look, you can drink your own. But why not buy for everyone? Are you doing this on purpose?" I didn't respond, calmly drinking my coffee with steady eyes. The room held its breath, thick with awkward tension. Later that afternoon, I received an HR meeting invite titled Discussion on Office Team Atmosphere and Work Norms. Entering the room, Dana was already seated, alongside Brian and Sharon, with 2 HR representatives. Sharon frowned, seemingly unsure of how the conversation would unfold. "We received a complaint about possible misappropriation of company resources," Dana began, accusatory. I raised an eyebrow. "Misappropriation? You mean the coffee fund?" Dana nodded triumphantly. "Yes. You should cover the shortfall in the fund." I suppressed a smile. "Dana, this fund was set up by you. I have no obligation to use my own money to cover it. Over the past 2 years, I voluntarily bought coffee for the team, spending over $7,000. I haven't touched a single dollar of company money." Sharon scanned the documents, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding, while Dana's face reddened. "He has destroyed team traditions and morale," Dana insisted, desperate and unwilling to yield. Sharon shook her head slowly. "Dana, you've misunderstood. He never promised continuous payment, nor did he touch company funds. Your complaint is invalid." I sat calmly, eyes fixed on Dana, silently declaring, the rules of the game were now clear, and her own mistakes were showing. Dana clenched her fists, lips trembling, her anger and shame surging inside. After the meeting, I returned to the office and printed out 2 years of coffee receipts, laying them on the communal break table with a small sign, 2 years of team support, personally funded. Jake muttered quietly, "That's more than my car down payment." Dana walked by, trying to sweep the receipts off the table, but I blocked her. She was speechless, hands trembling with frustration. Order returned to the office, though Dana, every Monday, would silently showcase her own purchased coffee as a form of provocation. The tension lingered, but I knew, I had firmly positioned myself on the opposite side in this small-scale power game. Dana today watched me enter the office like an alert cat, holding a cup of coffee with a self-satisfied smirk. Wednesday mornings always carried an unusual tension, like the air itself had been injected with her hostility. I paused at the door, tilting my head slightly. "Morning, Dana." "Morning," she replied curtly, her eyes landing on my bag. "Brought your own? Trying to save money?" I didn't answer, merely picking up my thermos and walking to my desk. Colleagues stole glances at me, nervous. Brian whispered with Sharon in the corner, their expressions uneasy. I sat down and began processing unfinished reports. The keyboard's tapping sounded unusually loud in the quiet office, a reminder that work mattered more than coffee disputes. Yet Dana tapped her coffee cup lightly, each knock a silent protest. My mind drifted to past experiences, the years of being misunderstood, belittled, and forced to endure. I remembered my first year, as the youngest analyst on the team. Every suggestion I made in meetings was ignored or treated as obvious nonsense. Dana carefully watched everyone's reactions, her smile hiding a cold indifference. Once, during a project presentation, I prepared full data and analysis. Dana whispered beside me, "Are you sure this is necessary? Don't waste everyone's time." After the meeting, she hinted to the department manager, "The newcomer may not be mature enough, we can skip some data." I quietly organized my documents in the corner, fingers trembling, eyes fixed on her mocking face, silently deciding, one day, I would never let this humiliation happen again. Another time, before the annual performance review, I worked overnight to produce a highly detailed report. The next day, when I submitted it, Dana publicly said, "Some of this data is excessive. Too much time spent on fringe cases." Everyone looked at me, as if my effort was wasted. The humiliation pierced my core, but I noted silently, she would never understand responsibility or contribution. Years of such accumulated shame taught me, mere tolerance and goodwill do not earn respect. So I quietly built my abilities and resources, planning for future opportunities. When others underestimate you, that's when you have the greatest advantage. The 2-year coffee incident was a voluntary act of kindness, but Dana viewed it as obligation and leverage. Every Monday, I recorded receipts and expenses secretly, exceeding the team budget by thousands, over $7,000, just to give everyone a smooth start. That was my way of proving my value when misunderstood and undervalued. When Dana placed the coffee fund on the desk, trying to coerce me with rules and expectations, I chuckled inwardly. She had no idea she had touched my firm boundary, sharpened by years of humiliation. That boundary, honed through patience, observation, and logic, was ready. I recalled the month my wife had surgery, bills piling up like mountains. My habitual generosity became heavy. Dana came to my desk, eyes full of disapproval, unconsciously revealing her self-perceived control. I remained calm, telling myself, she was digging her own grave. She thought she controlled me, but in reality, she was exposing herself within my careful observation. All past humiliations and underestimations had helped me develop a strategy of precise, evidence-based counteraction. I'm not impulsive, every step requires evidence and reason. Each of Dana's provocations provided material for retribution, her labels, her fund, her exaggerated expressions, all potential leverage for future action. During lunch, I reviewed emails and financial records, compiling 2 years of coffee expenditures. Every entry had a date, amount, recipient, and special notes. I prepared to display the facts publicly, letting the truth speak while dismantling Dana's manipulative facade. I knew revenge wasn't about impulse, it was about precision and patience. Dana, accustomed to controlling others via provocation and rules, never realized her every move was being recorded and analyzed. I resolved, the next step wouldn't be arguing, it would be undeniable facts and a thorough, calm counter. By evening, the office emptied. Dana, tidying her desk, mentioned casually, "You know, everyone thinks you've changed." I replied lightly, "Maybe, I'm just more focused on work." She glared, her coffee cup trembling. She had never truly understood me, and couldn't. Her power came from others' fear, and I never feared her. That night at home, I printed receipts and tables, arranging them by date, ready to display in a prominent office location. Each sheet recorded my silent contributions. This was the first step of measured retribution, revealing the truth to all who had witnessed my goodwill taken for granted, and exposing Dana's controlling mask. I knew revenge wasn't impulsive, it was methodical. Dana, accustomed to provocation and rules, never realized her every move was under scrutiny. I resolved, she would face not arguments, but irrefutable evidence and calm, total counteraction. On Monday morning, I opened the office door, holding a thick folder. Dana stood in the hallway, elbowing the coffee jar, eyes scanning everyone like a hawk. "Brought your own again today?" she asked, her tone sharp. I smiled faintly, not replying, and laid the folder on the break table. The folder contained 2 years of coffee receipts and detailed accounting, neatly arranged in tables, each entry noting date, amount, and recipient. I placed a small sign, 2 years of team support, personally funded. The office froze. Dana's pupils shrank slightly, her lips trembled silently. Jake peeked from the corner, "Wow, that's more than my car down payment." Dana spun to me, like a wounded predator. "Are you provoking me?" I calmly replied, "Provocation? No. Just facts. You've treated my goodwill as entitlement. Now, every contribution I've made is right here before you." I pressed the printer button, printing individual reports for each colleague, neatly stacked and handed to Sharon. She nodded slightly, her brow easing, eyes showing understanding. Dana's face grew redder. Fingers drumming the desk in silent rage, This isn't possible, you're exaggerating." I pointed to one of her own order receipts, "Dana, you can see for yourself. Every Monday, I covered coffee for 7 people. You've criticized my speed, publicly dismissed my analysis, and now you dare question my financial and time contributions." Colleagues gathered, expressions a mix of shock and admiration. Dana tried to justify, "That was voluntary, what does it have to do with me?" I stood slowly, eyes steel-like, "That's the problem. You've used others' goodwill as leverage, creating rules to force continued giving. You've never respected me." Her hands trembled, pointing, You're humiliating me." I shook my head, "Not humiliation. Fact. Your fund, labels, threats, now all exposed." She stiffened, lips quivering, This is revenge." I nodded lightly, calm, "No. It's fact. You thought control meant victory, but now, the truth leaves you no escape." Dana collapsed into her chair, hands clutching her head, trembling, tears welling, but silent. She had once used rules and threats to control others, now, she was trapped by them herself. The office held its breath. I returned to my desk, calmly packing my bag. Work continues, life continues. The only lesson you've learned, others' goodwill is not your right. Jake laughed softly, "I thought this was just about coffee." I smiled faintly, lifting my thermos. Sometimes, 1 cup of coffee can teach a lifetime lesson. Dana trembled in her chair, whispering, From now on, I didn't look back." The office regained normal rhythm, but the atmosphere had forever changed. Past humiliations and manipulations were shattered by calm, powerful truth. From that day on, Dana no longer showcased coffee to assert dominance, nor tried to manipulate anyone. She knew the rules and threats she once imposed were powerless before me. Colleagues returned to natural work rhythms, occasionally glancing at me with understanding and respect. I stirred my coffee quietly, eyes serene. Calm, precise, undeniable, this was the power of measured retribution. Dana's trembling, impotent fury, and fear reflected a mirror for all. Goodwill can be abused, but when facts are revealed, malice inevitably backfires. I murmured softly, years of patience, finally rewarded. The aroma of coffee drifted through the office, mingling with the profound, calm sense of victory.